Oh no, I'm actually not sleepy.
You're not sleepy? Mm-mm. Good thing I didn't ask. All right, and...
You did.
Shut up.
You presented the question.
We're recording.
You see, microphones be dangerous. You just be showing out. I didn't give a fuck, and then it's off. Hey, love, how you feel? I don't get none of that. I get salt. The mic is on.
I do. First of all, I am just as sweet.
I am 10% tired of that.
10%. First of all, I am just as sweet on this microphone as I am off of this microphone.
Yeah. For everyone else, I can get all the smoke in the flag, Jack.
Anywho, welcome back to another episode of the Black Coffee Comics Podcast. It is I, your host, Ty Blaque and Kulture,
and your other host, Space Lloyd 8.
Let's not dilly dally. Let's just go ahead and
Let's just get right on into these your digs and your meanery, shall we?
No, I want you to say it. It's my. I do the thingy. You're not gonna take that from me. That's my thing.
It's too late. It's too late.
Anywho, let's go ahead and get right into these comics on the coffee table. Today we're reviewing Chicken Devil and Silver Coin. Today we're talking about Chicken Devil.
Don't make it so easy to annoy you. This is fun.
We're talking about Chicken Devil, written by Brian Bush. No, shut up. Hold on, I'm gonna get it. Brian
Buccellato.
Brian Buccellato? Buccellato?
You said Buccellato. What?
I'm gonna get there. You give me 10 seconds. Hold, please, audience, while I say this name. Sound it out. I think Buccellato is where I'm gonna land.
Buccellato is fine.
It's not Buccellato. Where do you see an H in there?
2 C's. It's a CH.
Alright, anywho, Brian Buccellato and art by Hayden Sherman. Published by Aftershock Comics.
You did.
I'm so sorry.
With the Ukufa from Wakanda and Dave. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Sorry, y'all.
I'm sorry for her.
Shut up.
Next time I'm reading.
Chicken Devil. We're gonna go straight into the overview. Let's get into it. So, Chicken Devil follows an amazingly ordinary man named Mitchell Moss and his very ordinary family, where he has a wife, Denise, daughter, Hannah, Christian, and his mom, who is in jail, Gloria, but we're not talking about her. And Mitchell and his business partner, Antonio, run a chicken company called... Is Hot Chicken? Hot Chicken?
Yeah, it's
I got this. It's Hot Chicken, I believe.
It's not just Hot Chicken.
It's Hot Chicken. I bet 2 pennies is Hot Chicken.
It's Mitch's Hot Chicken.
Oh, where Mitch and Antonio run the amazing restaurant in Los Angeles called Mitch's Hot Chicken. And for the most part, that's really all it is. What you thought. Mitch, who has been running this business pretty clean, hasn't had an issue, is really happy in life. I wouldn't say like ecstatically happy, but he's living his life to the best of his ability. Yeah. He likes his kids. Like, it's not like he hates his wife or anything. He's just living. Like, nothing more, nothing less. However, his greedy friend Antonio was like, what's living without causing problems? And his friend decides that he wants to get involved with the no particular organization, but just a criminal organization that peddles, that booger snugger, that yes, I said booger snugger.
I'm gonna let you do these terms because they gonna hear, if you heard from the last episode what I said, and I want y'all to comment on YouTube and on Spotify who says it better. Is it booger snugger or is it that booger sugar boogaloo goddamn? But go ahead, go off, sis. Yeah.
I've never disliked someone so much in a moment. You make me hate everything.
Sorry.
Anywho, but of course, the organization, they peddle a lot of things like heroin, specifically heroin, but there's some implication that they do peddle some other things. And basically, one day, while Mitchell was just going to go in, check the inventory, a fire went off in his overflow stock, and to Michael's grave disdain, he finds out that the fire that went off blew up product that was being ran through Mitchell's Hot Chicken's overflow stock, which then starts this amazingly scary, terrible, horrifying, hilarious story of Mitchell turning from this random, regular schmegular, I run a chicken business franchise job guy, to Mitchell, this badass, amazing, shoot 'em up chicken guy. That is the story. Yes.
Yeah. It all revolves around a guy who...
Are you going to re-explain the story?
No.
Don't do that.
I'm agreeing with you.
I was going to say, don't you do that sometimes.
I do?
You re-explain my explanation, and it hurts my feelings.
I'm fansplaining, because I'm a fan of the show,
It's not a show. It's a comic book.
I'll tell you why I say it's a fan of the show. Just like last week, I want to call it a good derivative comic.
Derivative comic?
I call it a good derivative comic.
What are you talking about
last week? Because last week, when we talked about Deadly Class, it showed so many parallels to another series that had already developed a cult following. So something is killing the children, but then there's a stark contrast between that and Deadly Class. So we talked about Deadly Class. But for Chicken Devil, right off the bat, you'll be like, damn, Breaking Bad? Where? It starts kind of leaving that. Except there are a lot of differences, and it does set itself apart. This guy's down on his luck. He's not the mastermind. This dude was not happy, but satisfied. And he was dealt an exciting hand that he did not ask for, clearly. But we'll dissect it bit by bit. Little piece by piece, starting with
the art, like we normally do.
Yeah.
So let's get into Chicken Devil's art. Again, Chicken Devil was written by Brian Buccellato.
You gonna fail it twice?
Brian B. and Hayden Sherman, with the colorist Lloyd. Who's naming these people?
I think that's Leah Luffridge.
Where do you see Luff?
Think Ruff. Luff.
Luffridge. Okay, Lee Luffridge, Hassan, Otsmane-Elhaou. That was good though. I did that well.
Otsmane-Elhaou.
That's not. Why would it be Elhaou?
Haou. How?
Elhaou.
And they have an editor.
And Mike Martz. I'm so sorry, y'all. I don't know why these names are kicking my ass today.
They are gloriously kicking your
butt.
They
are not. Me and these names are struggling. But thank you to the whole team who made Chicken Devil, because y'all are amazing.
My goodness.
Starting off with the art for Chicken Devil, I really liked it. It is Los Angeles vibrant. That is what I'll start off with. It is just as vibrant and beautiful as like your favorite cocktail drink. It's eye-catching. It's really shocking. Like you can see the pages from across the room. The choice of colors and the choice of like what is used in this comic is so good.
It is.
It's so good.
There's so much good, like, sharp contrast on each of the pages. The color choices are super vibrant.
Mm-hmm.
And the illustration, top notch. Color choices, execute. You know, the one with the simple name had the heavier job, you know what I mean? So kudos to you, Sherman.
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman. I appreciate that.
I think that one thing I really liked about Chicken Devil, the art kind of gave me, I'm trying to think of what another comic that does like similar art to this. Like it's like realism, but not quite realism as far as art goes.
I think it's realistic enough to highlight the gore.
Yes, absolutely.
Realistic enough for
gore. But also the gore is kind of cartoony because there's just these moments that like you couldn't do outside of the medium of art in the pages.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like the softer, they're not all hard lines. It's not very clear shading. Like if there's an explosion,
sketchy kind of watercolory, mixed medium-y, like feels to it.
I would almost call the color choices and the soft lines to highlight the colors. I'd almost consider it splatter ready.
It definitely gives me ice cream man type vibes. Like
I could see that.
Like not the coloring and how it was how the colorist and how the colorist chose to color it, or how the artist decided to do pencil and inks. It's specific. Well, actually, no. It is not how the color shows the color. It is specifically how the artist decided to do pencil and inks, because the lines are super clean, but the faces kind of have like that simplistic realism to it. Yeah. It's very similar to how Ice Cream Man kind of like executes their people. So I really like that about it. Which, if you haven't read Ice Cream Man, we reviewed it back in like episode. Like 1, 2, or 3.
I think it was 3.
Like early episode of the podcast. I say that like this isn't still, we're not even episode 10 yet, but definitely an older episode from us. If you are interested in Ice Cream Man.
But this one here is a pretty solid one, color wise and artwork, and then kind of a small transition. Talking about the page flow.
Yes.
The pages are structured so freely. Right? Like it's easy to follow, but no two pages are the same. If somebody's supposed to be zooming in, you'll literally have like a little circle peephole to zoom in on one person's face.
Yes.
You have things like, oh, if it's important, then you have a subcircle. But for the what Mr. Elhaou does with the lettering for the onomatopoeia is clever.
Yes.
So you have different sound effects. They don't always say pow.
Yes.
They don't always say thok. They actually get creative and choose a different color. So it's not like, oh, somebody said pow. It actually goes red. Like if it's a bloody one, oh damn, he got hit hard. So they even played with the art of lettering.
They also really good job of using perception and using different angles. There's an angle that's kind of like a top-down angle. Also the paneling. I gotta say, in a lot of comics, just as a rule of thumb, most comic creators, when you're creating a comic, they'll say, don't try to fit more than like 5 panels on a page. Once you hit that 5, maybe 6 panel range, your panels start to get too crowded, and it's hard for you to get your story narrative across to the reader. However, Chicken Devil does this amazing job with its panels. It has some more traditional paneling, but nothing. The paneling is so unique here. Like there are some panels where it's got bubbles in the middle, like the panels circle off to kind of highlight different things that are going on. There are panels where they're overlapped and kind of like layered, almost as if you're like in Photoshop and you're putting things on top of itself. There are tons of panels with like unique dynamic jumping outs to kind of emphasize like the craziness of it. Like I really, really enjoy the paneling. There's this one paneling that's just total pop art. It's basically just pop art. And I think that's really a really important thing when you're talking about setting your comic apart from everybody else that's making comics here. There's millions of comics, but it's not just about the art, it's not just about the story. If you can really stand out by something else, which in this case, the paneling and just mentioning, it's just, there are these moments where like, it's like on one of the pages says, it's telling you it's the California Women's Correctional Facility, and it has a little arrow that draws it right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then it says Gloria Mitchell's mama, and then little thing there.
Yeah, if something is important, they have no problem
just saying,
pointing to it and saying it. It's like, hey, this is heroin. Hey,
right.
This is like, if somebody is important, they put the name of a person. So it's like,
so now you don't have to think about it.
They don't have to take themselves out of, well, Detective Murphy, even though they already knew each other's names for like 5 or 6 years. Well, Detective Murphy, hey, Detective Jefferson. No, it's just, this is Murphy and this is, well, by the way, the 2 investigators are Mick Conway and Naomi Taylor, that are following along and trying to find the stuff that's happening around Mitchell Moss, who's the main person.
Absolutely. Last little bit of art I just want to put in there. There at the end of issue 1, there is this iconic scene where someone dies, and it's just well executed. It's amazing. You'll love it. Just everything from the cover art to the panels to how everything is just executed. They just do. This is a good job. It's some of the best art I think out of all the comics that we've read so far. Chicken Devil, and I say this honestly because I thought Search for Siddiqa and Tuskegee Heirs had some of the best art in comics that we've read up until this point.
Agreed. I could agree with that.
I mean, the only other one I could think that possibly made me go, whew, were the 2 web comics. One was Lore Olympus and the other one was The End of You. Those are the comics I'm just like, man, this art is beautiful.
Yeah, but they're in different mediums though. It's specifically webtoons and they utilized it.
Yes, definitely different mediums. But like, we're talking about art that stopped me. But like, I thought Search for Siddiqa, Tuskegee Heirs had probably the pinnacle, the top tier, the best art I'd seen in a while. And Chicken Devil definitely came up and is like neck and neck with that now. Like, I really love Chicken Devil's art. It does an amazing job of executing that. But moving on into the story. Yeah. Lloyd, you want to take it away?
Yeah. So, as far as what we're doing, story work?
Yeah, I just said story. Are you paying attention?
I'm messing with you.
Oh, hurt my feelings.
I was waiting for you to talk about the story.
I'm sensitive.
So, for the story, which is why I call it a derivative comic, you see from the very beginning, which I found was very cheeky. It was very cheeky by Brian Buccellato. That
you don't know that that's his name.
You got a better pronunciation.
Yes, I do have a better pronunciation.
Anyway, about him, I thought it was very clever that they started off with the premise that's like, oh, this is heroin. Oh, he runs a chicken shop. Oh, he's kind of complacent with his life. He's fallen into the humdrum. Oh, unfortunate. What does that remind you of? I'm not asking you because you haven't seen it, but for those of you that have, it's Breaking Bad. But they immediately say, like within the first issue, they're like, oh, what do you think this is? But yeah, he says, yeah, you're smuggling drugs in the buckets, and the henchman is like, that was my idea. Ingenious, right? Yeah, a real original idea when they did it in Breaking Bad. So it's like, god damn, you know what reference it looks like, so where do you go from here? So they named it.
Ow, that's my hand.
It is your hand over here doing a hand puppet. I can't believe you. So they immediately face it, and then from there on, they expand the difference. This guy did not make heroin. He was cool. He was actually a regular dude. But his partner was stupid enough to be greedy and made a deal without him.
Certainly did.
And then now he's paying literally for everyone else's fuck up. And writing wise, they had a huge task in issues 2 and 3 to be able to say, okay, you called it you said it's not Breaking Bad. You actually literally said it in your comic. Now show me how you're different. And they got right back into the story, and had their own fight scenes, had their own...
Really good de-evolution of a character.
Yeah, a very gradual and consistent breakdown. They even had, the investigators without harping on them. It was like they really took their time adding and removing stuff off the chopping board, so it was efficient. And the first 3 issues, I gotta pick up the other ones because it's good. I want to see where the rest of it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's for me to have just picked this up off of this. This was a Lloyd pick, by the way. This was not. Typically, I'll suggest the comics that we review, but these are all straight off of his shelf.
Straight off the shelf, now.
Off of his shelf. For me to have picked it up, I don't think I've fallen in love with the comic so quickly. I'm very interested to see where this comic goes. And I think for me, some of my favorite elements of the story are its really ingenious use of pop culture references.
Yeah.
A lot of comics try to throw in pop culture references. A lot of comics don't do it well. A lot of comics just end up oversaturating their work by trying to reference other works, and it just gets messy. I'm looking at you, Ready Player One. But overall, I think it does a really good job of not making the pop culture references feel like another piece of literature, but making the characters feel like they live in the world and the pop culture is living around them. So like they use the opening song from Friends, I'll be there for you, and when the investigators come and talk to Mitchell, and it's hilarious because he's trying to like hide away from them and he accidentally turns on the radio, and the whole opening plays, and it's just also the opening, like the words and the lyrics kind of play into...
that was his ringtone.
Yes, it was his ringtone. It kind of plays into like his situation. Like it was very funny. Also, he sings a song at the end. Like there's just very good use of using those pop culture references to further drive the story and make the character feel real, feel grounded, and not just like, they live in an alternate universe where YouTube is actually ViewTube or some shit.
Yep. They were like, no, this world. It's modern times. It's modern Eagle Rock, California.
I said it was in Los Angeles. Well, that's what
only like that's his suburb is Eagle Rock.
Oh, is Eagle Rock.
But Los Angeles is where all the shit pops up. But to not shy away from it and be like, I can make this funny. End of each issue, end after end, it keeps paying off, and I'm like, what?
Cliffhangers are good.
Yeah,
cliffhangers are good.
Well timed and tasteful. But I also will say, Mike Martz, your editing, bee's knees. But editors don't get enough credit. Yeah?
Editors don't.
They don't.
Editors don't get enough credit.
And we can tell the difference for some of the comics that we've seen where an editor was absent. It was, fuck it, I made this. This is good enough. You don't have the second set of eyes to say, hey, does this flow? Can you shore this up in a panel or two? Like, that is a heavy task.
It's I think, honestly, in the time that we've spent reviewing comics so critically, I think that I've found a new appreciation for the editor in comics. But also it's kind of it's the plus and minuses of how you put out your comics. If you put out an independent comic and you're under an indie brand, somebody, the chances of you a for lack of a better term, a nobody, getting your comic to be produced by one of these big companies like Boom or Image, or in this case Aftershock Comics, can be very difficult. It's hard to get your comic up there, and depending on what that publisher is requesting, who knows what they're asking of you in order to get your comic out there. But the good part is about being under those publishers is you get all of the assistance and the help that your comic needs, versus somebody like, I'm not saying anything against it, I still think the books are amazing, like Sadika and Tuskegee Heirs. One of the things we saw that Tuskegee Heirs could have benefited from, or not even just Tuskegee Heirs, Monarchs, which is an amazing comic I really loved. I think we both really loved. Did we release that episode, Monarchs?
We already recorded it? No, I don't think we did yet. Okay.
Well, at some point you'll hear us review Monarchs too. But Monarchs is a really good comic that was amazing, that just had a few editing things. Just dialogue. Like small stuff.
But those little things gradually take away.
Yeah.
So if you ever have a deadline for those of you that do create, because we're creators ourselves. We have our hands on the editing side and the writing side, excuse me, of the process. And the process is very delicate. You can have your idea start to finish for an issue, a volume, the whole story. But if you don't have a second set of eyes to get it from rough draft to final product, you're only going to catch so much because you already are passing it off for your own idea. Get someone else, you know, and it's
someone who loves your project a little less than you. So that when they
someone that'll be honest, where it's like, oh, I was going to give you 5 out of 5 anyway. No, get somebody that's objective, that can really tell you what may or may not be missing.
Absolutely. So, I definitely agree. Absolutely agree. But overall, Chicken Devil, without, like, there's so much, and then there's just not enough that can be said about Chicken Devil. It really is just one of those comics that you get them in your hands. It's a solid book all the way around. It's a very fun read. Very entertaining. I personally rate this as an espresso. I think it's not only is it interesting, it's eye-catching. It takes all of those things that we know about the genre that the book is in, and it does definitely do something new, and I'm so excited to share this one with y'all.
No objections for me here. It's definitely an espresso in my mind, and it wasn't that it did something unseen before, but I've seen the attempt in other comics where it's like, oh, we're gonna pull from pop culture, but other ones would hint at it and you're like, I know where they get it from, and they don't stray from it. They said, you think in Breaking Bad, let's get that out the way in the first 4 pages, and then send you on this satisfying trip from issue 1, 2, and 3, and 4 and 5 I gotta pick up next time I go to Coliseum.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I'll definitely share this.
Additionally, just before we get off of this book here, I loved on the back end, there's like some really cool, interesting, like additional content. At the end of the first issue, they actually share like it almost reads like a magazine excerpt, and it talks. What do you mean?
Nothing. I agree. That's a great idea. Where'd you come up with that?
I came up with it from you, but you didn't mention it first. That's why I took it.
Okay, you're right.
Okay. You had an opportunity. we're at the end of the review. You could have popped this in at the beginning.
So Lloyd said.
Well, now Ty is saying it reads very much like a magazine.
Yeah.
And it has like Mitch's Hot Chicken, our story on it. It has a cute little graphic. It even features the menu.
The menu.
You're gonna talk over me.
I'm reclaiming my words. You can't I'm right next to you. You're in striking distance.
It's not gentrification if I'm adding to the conversation more than just taking your words. Okay.
Choose a different word.
Different word. Same words, but they're different. Leave
I love
me
you
alone.
so much. I love you to pieces.
I despise you. Anywho.
Yeah.
But like, additionally, yes, there is a menu. Also, it shows the hot sauces at the bottom, and there's this cute little excerpt in the back about the creators themselves. I always like when comics include the actual creators and gives you a little bit about their background, because I think that it's important to know who makes your content. So. And
it's also proof of their resume.
Yes. Now moving on to the next comic on our coffee table, we've got Silver Coin. I do want to preface Silver Coin. We have issues 8, 9, and 10. And I want to specify this because this is important. So all 3 issues were illustrated by the same people. So issues 8, 9, and 10 are both illustrated by not Michael Walsh, my apologies, by Toni Marie Griffin and Michael Walsh. There we go. But issue 8 was written by Michael Walsh and Matthew Rosenberg. These names are killing me today. Issue 9 was written by Vida Ayala and Michael Walsh, and issue 10 was written solo by Michael Walsh. So it's just so that you're aware that there's a handful of different co-writers and creators to each story.
There is a consistent team that has different writers, kind of like how very similar to how Walking Dead had different directors and different writers, but it was all the same, under the same umbrella. So the only thing that changes was the writers.
However, as far as the review goes, because each of the different issues are their own stories, this is a connected anthology, so they're all in the same world because they all have the same basic premise. But the stories themselves are fundamentally different. So with that being said, I personally only want to review issues 8 and 10.
I can review issue 9.
So that way, because I really liked issue 10, issue 8 was kind of just the one that we both read together. So we'll just hop right into it. But one thing we can talk across, because the art is all the same.
Yep.
What do you think about the art? I'm letting you take this one off.
The art is super consistent. I do like that a lot of the colors are muted. It's a lot of usage of black. So the shadows are foreboding with a lot of similar muted colors for the pastels. Very similar to I don't know what I would parallel the artwork to, but it's a lot of ink. The panels themselves are really heavy. If there's a color in there, it's for a reason. So they would use yellow specifically for like a burning building, but they would definitely use red for blood. But they didn't have anything anything pop out color palette wise. So if something was drawn and it was bleeding, you would know where the blood is. So they kept the details very simple and minimal. So it put more focus on what you were reading or what the scene looked like. And it was easy to read. It was easy to follow the flow of the different scenes. Some of them, they didn't even have to show the actual act. Like, I'll get to issue 9, but issue 8, you don't even see most of the stuff unless the coin is there. They all revolve around this coin that either drives people to insanity to get it.
Didn't do an overview, yeah.
Or misfortune falls. It's hard to do because it's an anthology. Mm-hmm. But misfortune befalls people that treasure it. So you get it and you go crazy, or you go crazy trying to get it. So you see different variations along the lines. Besides the coin itself, each story is its own, I guess, tragedy.
Yeah, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
So starting off with issue 8 of Silver Coin, like Lloyd mentioned, it all follows the basic premise. Coin makes people do crazy things. Real quickly, I just want to touch on some of the art for issue 8. Issue 8 takes place in it takes place on Wall Street in the 1960s. Of New York, so it's in a skyscraper. And what you'll notice in the issue, if you pick up a physical copy, is that every page is a 3x3 rectangle, all the panels up into the last page. And it's at first I didn't catch it, but going back as I'm doing the review, I just realized that it's mimicking like windows on a skyscraper, and it's supposed to feel like the windows on the skyscraper, because at the very end of the comic, the guy falls out the skyscraper, and it's like his vision of seeing himself inside of the skyscraper the whole time. So that was interesting. Just a little tidbit there. But basically everything else I was mentioning about the art is consistent. So issue 8 of this series. One thing I'll say about the story, just a brief overview of this comic in particular, it follows Henry. He is our leading guy, and he's basically this hardworking, all-American guy who works as a janitor inside of a building. And he specifically cleans the office and the floor of one of the people who top earns in this particular building. His name is...
The 20th floor specifically.
20th floor specifically, thank you for that. Mr. Pension, who is this random rich guy who does random rich guy shit. He collects shit, he buys shit, he sells shit. That's just what he does. And Mr. Pension talks about how he has a very expensive coin collection where he collects coins from all over the world. And in his coin case that he just recently acquired, there was this magical coin eye that he got from somewhere. And because the eye is, I wouldn't say evil, but the eye has a lot of influence, you just start to see Henry descending and devolving as a person because he's trying to get to the coin in whatever way he can. In his pursuit to try to get to the coin, he kills his family, which you don't realize are dead until like midway through the story. He kills one of his co-workers, Lewis.
We don't even know how long his family's been dead.
We don't know how long. They were just kind of rotting on the ground.
Yeah.
It's weird. We find Mr. Pension mentions that a sale had fallen through, and one of the guys that he was trying to sell to, he would do anything, to get that sale back. So Henry decides, I'm gonna go kill the guy. His name is Roy. I'm gonna go kill him and bring his head back to Mr. Pension so I can exchange it for the coin. And things get rough, and then he ends up dying. Henry ends up dying at the end, kind of as like a tragic, not tragic hero, but just like a tragic character in a very tragic story. He was doomed from the start, the moment that coin came into the storyline. Overall, this comic story-wise was solid, but as someone who really likes horror, this just didn't do it for me for some reason. I can't say that it's because the comic was bad, because I don't think the comic was bad. I don't think the comic was not good. It just wasn't for me for whatever reason.
Do you think if they showed him actually chopping off Roy Bergeron's head, that it might have made more impact? Because they had a couple things. We didn't see the family die. We didn't see, the only thing we saw
was Lewis die.
Was him push Lewis in front of the bus. So do you think if it's going to hint that he's on this obsessive rampage, that would have made a better impact? I think
what may have made a better impact for me is, I don't know. I want to say it's because of the paneling. I felt like the paneling was a bit confusing for me, but honestly, rereading it the second time, the paneling was fine. I think it's just that the story I would have liked to see his obsessiveness. I would have honestly preferred a more subtle obsessiveness. Kind of like, I'm trying to think of the story, what anime is that? To bring in a reference. It's like, was it Future Diaries that did it? Or maybe it's the girl, she's like the obsessive yandere chick. And the reason why I bring her up is that when she starts her rampage to basically kill everybody around him and then eventually kills him, trying to get to her, it's not in your face. It's not, we know she about to do it. Yeah. It's real slow. It's small stuff, Yep. Very, very tiny things that she does, and then magically by the end of it, she's already snowballed and it's too late and now he dead on the ground. Yeah. This feels dynamic from the very moment he comes in contact with the coin. There's never any gradual build up. If it is that fast, I guess that's cool. But he killed his family and we never saw him change. Like, how long did he kill his family before he even got the coin? Because it didn't even really specify. Yep. I'm not saying that showing it would have done better, but I would have just liked to see some more instances where he was on the path to chopping off some guy's head, walking it through the building, and handing it off to his boss. And then for me, I feel like the impact of him dying would have felt more tragic too, because it didn't feel like he was a tragic character. Because the way that they try to beef it up is like, Henry, he's just working hard for his family. He's the best guy. And I don't know how he got here. We didn't see how good of a guy he was beforehand either. Henry, while he may have been the main character, I don't feel like we got enough of Henry in this story to justify everything he got in return. But of course, there's also kind of the deal with cosmic horror. No one ever really deserves anything that happens in cosmic horror. But the TLDR, I don't know. This issue didn't do it for me. Not a bad issue, just not for me.
I get that.
Not for me.
Issue 9 is a lot more straightforward. The main protagonist isn't even named. It's just the detective. And in his pursuit of the coin wasn't even his focus. It wasn't, I gotta chase this coin. He is a crooked cop who lost a lot of money, and he's in debt to a lot of not straightforward people. They don't get much into it, but basically he's in debt. And the way that he collects money, because the setting is in the 80s in New York City. So the entire backdrop of it, without getting, too much into it, like New York City and the 70s. So as a cop, he commissions, gang members or to tell him of buildings that are burnable. So he has them burn down the building so whoever he knows can collect on insurance money. So he's so unimportant. He's just the detective. And the commissioner of the police department is the one that's like, get your shit together, get your stuff done. You're already in debt and I'm tired of it. You have to get your money now. So he goes and he starts, then he goes over to another job, and while he's trying to burn a building down because a gang member tipped him off, and they kind of weave in, like, I guess to dip into the world. They redact the N-word, but it's what they say, which wasn't necessary. Like, the guy was already hateable. So he walks past a homeless person and he takes the silver coin from him. And he's like, no, don't leave me, He goes and tries to burn down an apartment building. This little girl named Cherish sees him. Little black girl named Cherish sees him. And as the fire is blazing, he finally catches up with her and tries to throw her into the fire. So he's holding her, and the fire department sees him and is like, oh, thank goodness you saved her. And he's like, shit. So she goes unconscious. She goes in like a 2-day coma. He gets all these accolades for rushing into a fire and saving her life. So he gets all these commendations. That same commissioner that's like, make your money or else, gives him a medal. He's a hero. He goes to a diner and someone is like, hey, thank goodness you saved her. She's gonna be okay. First they thought she was gonna be in a coma, but she'll wake up tomorrow, probably tonight. He goes, what the fuck? And he's holding the coin that's like burning in his hand. He goes over to the hospital, tries to smother her. Her mom comes in and he's like, don't worry, I know where you guys live. She's sleeping, so I'm sorry. Then the gang members that he gets these tips for as far as which buildings are safe to burn, he flips out at them because he hasn't paid them. He has all these accolades. He's the hero. It gets to his head. He's like, I'm God over here. You guys are just a bunch of bleep redacted, and I run this. And then they quote scripture at him, and he's like, no, I am God in these streets. You guys are criminals. You have no proof whatsoever. Specifically, one of the gang members say, and I will set my face against you, and ye shall be slain before your enemies. ... You're gonna get your comeuppance, whatever. And they're like, we're done. So he finds a building by himself. The coin sets off a fire while he still holds the gas canister. So shit is blazing all around him, and these like melting wax fire ghosts come up to him from the door. So he gets burned alive. And now the commissioner is like, we need to heal the community for this breach of trust. He's been stripped of his title posthumously. So it had almost nothing to do with the coin, except the coin brought the trouble to him, not that he was looking for it.
Interesting. Definitely a lot cooler when you read it.
I took my time with it. And then at the very end, they're like, well, at least for the detective, these are his effects before we submit them. Do you want anything? And they find the silver coin. So now the commissioner has the coin.
That's pretty dope. In issue 10, to make a long story short, it's a very simple story. Whole bunch of kids are hanging out outside of the school. It doesn't really specify where they are. It's 2007 somewhere in America, and there's a whole bunch of teams. They vibing, smoking a little whatever, drinking a little whatever. One of the girls, Audrey, she's talking to this raccoon. The raccoon can talk. No one else can hear the raccoon but her. Everybody else pimps off, and they're like, hey Audrey, we're gonna hang out with you later on at your crib, because they're gonna smoke a little bit, drink a little bit, since Audrey's parents had to Audrey and the raccoon scurries off. Audrey's walking through the woods for whatever reason. Kids walk through the woods, and she sees this interesting moss-covered person with the coin in their hand. And Audrey hears a voice basically saying, I need you to help me in the suffering that this coin has caused. Audrey's like, okay, weird grass lady, bet, let's do this. So Audrey begins a seance with trying to exorcise the coin. Audrey's friends pimp over and they're like, hey, yo, smoke a little bit, drink a little bit. She's like, nah, help me with this ritual. They're like, is that blood on the ground? She's like, yeah. They're like, totes, I guess. Let's do it.
Golly.
So they all get together and, after she's pleaded with them, please, come on, guys. This crazy lady in my head told me, let's do it. Mm-hmm. So they're chanting, wad, fa, woo, ha, ha, and, the coin starts to shake, and the lady's like, yes, we're so close. And then, out of nowhere, the lady's like, ah, dang, that guy who's been opposing me this whole time, he didn't eat. So, and you guys weren't strong enough, so, yeah, he's gonna take y'all out. And then proceeds to try to murk everybody at this party. Yeah, takes possession of one of Audrey's friends, uses her to stab somebody else, and then chokes out one of the other little blonde kids. It's crazy. Audrey ends up making that out of there okay with the gold coin, and she tosses it into the ocean. The raccoon sits up beside her and was like, "Yeah, girl, that was crazy." Overall, issue 10 was wild to me, but I really enjoyed it.
It does sound like a good payoff. I should have read it.
Issue 10 was just one of those issues where I was just like, this is something else, but it was fun. It was issue 10 to me. The reason why I liked issue 10, I guess, say more than issue 8, is because even though there weren't a ton of characters, Audrey, it was really just about Audrey. It was just about her, and it was just about her trying to do this thing because this crazy lady in the woods told her, I want you to stop the pain that this coin has caused. And if you had read at least one of the issues before it, the pain that the coin has caused. So you're rooting for Audrey to do, to win. Even if Audrey isn't your most likely protagonist, you are rooting for Audrey and you want her to succeed. So when she fails, it's somewhat impactful. You're like, snap. I thought this was gonna be the last issue. Yeah. And not only that, Audrey is one of the handful of characters that actually lives after making contact with the coin, which then gets you theorizing in your little brain. You're just like, oh my goodness, what could this mean?
Ooh, what else?
Right. And then additionally in the back, there's this excerpt between two characters. It's like this additional little story, and it's written like an interview. The interview is called Unrighteous Instruments, and it's between two characters, S.A. Severian.
You don't get there.
Severian?
Take
Severian.
Your time, baby.
Shut up.
You ever get tired of them when you trying to do your solo and you get choked up with take your time, baby.
I hate it.
Don't find it, baby.
It's between S.A. Severian and Sergeant Bix, and basically they're going back talking about how people in the kids in the community are dying.
In the community.
Stop. Kids in the community are dying. They're on this forum and they're talking about how this coin grants you wishes, but also makes your life a living hell. And at first they're like, it was like a joke, like, haha, it's aliens. He's like, at first I didn't believe it, but I mean, who knows what it could be. But I know it's a problem and we need to stop it, which could give a hint as to what happens in issue 11. So, yeah. Overall, from what I got from Silvercoin, the series as a whole, the series from these 3 issues is a medium roast. There's not a lot for me to go back and hunt for all of the issues. I definitely would not collect every issue of Silvercoin. Each individually, issue 8, from me reading it, I'd probably rate it a medium roast. Issue 10, I'd rate it a blonde roast. It was really good and I really liked it. And it did get me very interested in the next issue. There are some points probably I'd wanted to fix. Maybe I would have liked the issue to be a little bit longer, so I would have had a little bit more exposition going on just in general, but overall, it's a solid comic. And what about you? Because you read the middle issue 9.
I did read 8 and 9, and I would say I like what they did. That genre of a horror anthology kind of revolving. I do still want to go back and read issue 10 now that you describe it. It seems pretty dope. They are going up through the eras. I hesitate to give it a blonde roast because on paper we do say if you like it enough to finish the series, technically that's blonde. But if you just want to finish the issue, that's medium. At least if I'm being objective about it. And do I want to see issue 10? And if there is another issue, I do. It's just it would be a really low blonde. Yeah. For me. And it's nothing against the artwork or the writing even. I mean the panels, it just doesn't grab me as much. Mm-hmm.
It's not a bad comic at all.
Yeah, like I already have issue 10, and after I read that, I'd be like, oh, interesting cliffhanger, but I don't see myself searching to see if there's an issue 11 or if there even is one. It's kind of a, if I'm here, I'm here. If not, cool. So I would truthfully have to settle on medium roast. And it's not even bad. They're great individual reads. Mm-hmm. It's just as a whole,
Also, this is an Image published, so if you are interested, you can pick it up through Image or some kind of secondhand seller. It's a slightly older comic. Overall, I think, can I suggest this? Yeah, actually I can. I feel like if you're someone who's really into anthology horrors, if you're someone who's really into to slasher type things, some occult work, every comic is just a smidge bit different. So like I if you look at issue 9, I didn't read it, but if you look at issue 9, there's like some body horror. Issue 8 is more like a slasher. Issue 10 is more like an occult film, maybe like some Blair Witch type vibes to it. Yeah. So if you're interested in different types of horror, and I think this is a really good anthology to get into, it definitely will provide you a lot of different horror elements. But if you're someone where heavy exposition story type stuff may bore you, or if you're someone that really needs to be captivated, like you need to see high octane fighting and you don't like long setup, then these probably won't be for you.
Niche, it's a blonde. All around, generally medium.
You said niche. If it's in the niche, yeah, I think if you're into horror,
if you're into that anthology niche, I mean, we do have additional recommendations from our previous reviews. Ice Cream Man, solid.
Oh yeah, Ice Cream Man is definitely a solid one.
This one is like if you're into that niche, you'll rate it blonde roast. But for me, I have Ice Cream Man. That's like I want the next. I got volume 4 and 5. I wasn't even done with 3. So putting it in that same genre, and I've seen it executed enough. This one here, you can tell it's a little bit older.
Yeah.
And if you do like specifically not only that genre, but also some of the older comics, so you get more words, more dialogue. They tend to drag a little bit more out or leave stuff to imagination. But I'm not that type, so medium.
Yeah. Well, all in all, that's pretty much all that's left to say about these two comics. Again, just for the people who had forgotten that we had reviewed, I almost said Chicken Little.
Devil. Chicken Devil.
Chicken Devil. That was a comic published by Aftershock Comics, co-written by Brian Buccellato and art by Hayden Sherman. Do not comment. Thank you.
You fine. I'm.
And Silver Coin, which had several different artists and writers. I will not go over all of them again, but just know that we rated not Chicken Little. Oh my god, now it's in my head.
Chicken Devil.
We rated Chicken Devil a overall espresso, and we rated Silver Coin. There was a handful of different ratings, but for me, it was issue 8 was a medium. Issue 9 I didn't read myself, but issue 10 was a blonde. Rating the overall series as a medium roast.
Sounds about right. For Chicken Devil, espresso, definitely agree. I know I threw a couple different rating systems, but Silver Coin for me was a medium roast. Plain and simple. No complaints. just not for me. So, medium roast.
And as far as the end of the episode, you already know who it is. It's Blaque and Kulture. If you're looking for me on social media, it's going to be Blaque and Kulture Official on IG and just Blaque and Kulture everywhere else. Also, tune into the last episode to catch, what was the comic we did last time? Whew, these brain cells are not braining today.
Yeah. Deadly Class.
Deadly Class, yes. Please tune into the last episode to watch Deadly Class. And where can they find you, sir?
They can always find me as Space Lloyd 8. You type that into Twitch, you will find me there. TikTok, same thing. You might see some more bite-sized versions of these same reviews. YouTube, I'm on Space Case Gaming. And then same thing for Facebook as well. So, those are the 4.
Also, don't forget to go into the polls, comment on polls, go on questions, answer our questions, go on YouTube, support us on YouTube, because Black Coffee Comics is there as well on my YouTube page, Blaque and Kulture. And without further ado, we love you guys. We will see you in the next podcast. Bye.